Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Asher Marketing Podcast. This podcast is brought to you by Asher Agency, a full-service marketing agency with offices in Indiana, West Virginia, and Washington, D.C. For nearly 50 years, Asher has helped our clients tell their stories, reach customers and prospects, and stand out from the crowd. To learn more about how we can help your company, visit asheragency.com or contact us at hello@asheragency.com. My guest is Stacy Pelz. Stacy, how you doing?
Pretty good, Anthony. How about you?
I'm doing great. Well, thank you so much for doing this. You and I were chatting before we hit record, and I want you to tell me a story because I wasn't aware of this. You've been very nice every time I've talked to you, but apparently the first time I talked to you, I wasn't very nice.
Well, like I said, we were experiencing some technical difficulties.
So this is Peerless,
This
right?
is with Peerless.
Let me set it up. So
Okay.
I'm a customer.
Yes.
And is this during COVID? Or is
No,
this
it
pre-COVID?
was pre-COVID.
Okay. So I was living at the time at Three Rivers Apartments, right? I moved there in 2018. Yeah, it was because my son graduated from high school shortly thereafter. So I'm living at Three Rivers Apartments. I'll talk about why I started using Peerless and why I'm a big fan of Peerless. But that was early on. I'm in the apartment. Everything's new to me. One of the things that's new is having dry cleaning delivered. So that leads to a conversation that you and I have. So tell me about that conversation.
Well, the thing is, I started with Peerless Cleaners in March of 2017.
Okay.
We didn't have a delivery route downtown.
Yeah.
But a few accounts. We didn't have a driver.
Okay.
So I was hired to create a downtown delivery route.
Okay.
So I was very passionate about it.
Yeah. So this is your baby.
100% my baby.
Okay.
So Three Rivers Apartments at the time was the biggest apartment complex downtown.
Yep.
It was very important to me to provide good customer service. You guys were all my babies there.
Yeah.
But at the time, the pickup and delivery was out of a closet.
Yeah. So you would have to, as a resident, you would have to go down to the office.
Yep.
The office is only open during certain hours.
Oh, yeah.
You go down there hoping, and sometimes even during their opening hours, because they have other things to do, they're showing properties.
Mm-hmm.
You'd get there saying, okay, I need my shirts, and then the office would be closed or it's after hours, and your
Right.
shirts are in a closet behind a locked door.
Right.
Yeah.
And you couldn't get your shirts.
And I wasn't happy about
So
that,
you were
apparently.
not happy. You were hurried. Very, very hurried.
I'm kind of always hurried, but I think I've mellowed since then.
So
but, yeah.
I was excited to tell you the changes that I was working on with the property manager
Yeah.
and that we were working on it and I was going to try to get it changed and yada, yada. And you were like, thanks. Bye.
I can be that way. Ask my coworkers.
Sounds great.
Yeah, they will. My coworkers will sometimes get emails from me that say things like yes or no, and that's the whole email. So I'm not surprised. And for all of podcast kind, I apologize for
No.
being, as my great aunt would once say, curt and unfriendly in my response to you.
Or rushed.
Yeah, probably rushed. Yeah, and I'm someone who's always rushed even when I shouldn't be, so I need to mellow out a little bit.
Yeah. Well, you inspired me to push further and harder to make the changes for the residents who are also our customers.
Yeah.
And the pandemic, I was in a perfect spot to make those changes because people were at home. So I was able to eventually get us going door to door.
Yeah.
And our sales have quadrupled in that building by that.
Well, let me talk a little bit about how I ended up as a Peerless customer. And genuinely, I say this very genuinely, that I'm a big fan of what you do because the customer service is so good. I might not have sounded like a fan the first time we talked, but since then, we've smoothed things out. So I remember it was a sunny summer day, and I am someone who lives for summer. Like when summer comes, I want to be doing as little as possible and enjoying the weather as much as possible, like a lot of people. And one day, I remember I was ironing shirts and looking outside, and it's beautiful. It's like 80 degrees and sunny. And I'm inside with this pile of shirts, and I'm doing a bad job, right? When I iron shirts, they're worse after I iron them than they were before. And I'm starting to think, well, why am I doing this? I think there are people out there who would gladly handle this for a few bucks a shirt And I started doing the math and I was like, this is the best deal ever. But I was skeptical. I'm like, well, will they do a good job? And as it turns out, Peerless does a great job. And I mean that very genuinely.
Thank you.
And then when I found out about the delivery thing, I was like, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So, and I'm gonna speak to our audience for a second. I feel like this is a cheat code. I don't live downtown anymore. I live northeast, which to me sometimes feels like Canada. It's like 20 minutes from downtown. And magically, on a Tuesday or a Friday, I can put a bag of dry cleaning out to be picked up. A nice person comes and picks it up. And then the following Tuesday or Friday, they will bring me my pressed and dry cleaned shirts for very little money. It's fantastic. And not just shirts, suits, and other things.
Yes.
So it's a great service. And I first started taking advantage of that at Three Rivers and continue to do it because it's a huge time saver. And I'd like to hear a little bit about your experience in that position because you started as a delivery driver, correct?
Yes.
So tell me a little bit about how that happened and what your experience was, and then how that led to the role you have now.
Well, I unexpectedly lost my husband in 2016. Mm-hmm. We had a bar and restaurant together. Mm-hmm. We were at a food show, and he had a massive heart attack in the lobby of the casino, and my whole world just pretty much shattered. Yeah. And one of my husband's acquaintances had approached me about being a delivery driver for Peerless Cleaners. I thought that was the most insane thing I ever heard.
So tell me why do you think this was a bad idea?
Because I was only familiar with the restaurant business. Yeah. It's all I ever knew since I was 12. Mm. And so the thought of changing my career just didn't make sense to me until it did. And then when I started with Peerless Cleaners, I cannot express how much I am thankful for this company and how much I genuinely love who we are as a company and what we do, the quality that we do, how we do it, and then just to watch everything grow. Yeah. I was hired to build the downtown route, which I did. Mm-hmm. And we just kept getting this person added onto the route and that person and this business. Then we started a second route.
Yeah. So I was surprised to hear that route was new as of like 2018. Was that just because there weren't a lot of people living downtown?
We didn't have a driver downtown. Right. We had accounts that we delivered to for free downtown. Yeah. But we didn't have a truck that was designated to that area. Yeah. So that's what I did. Yeah. I just was going from person to person, business to business, place to place. And one of my first linen accounts was Club Soda. Huh. Oh my goodness, I about lost my mind that day leaving that restaurant when she told me yes. It was just... Yeah, that was crazy giddy.
Well, that's great. That's great, and you know, it's a testament to the fact that when you and I talk about your work, I don't feel like you're trying to sell me on it. I really feel like you believe in the company you work for.
100%, I do.
Tell me why that is. Why do you think the business you work for is different, and how does that help you in the work that you do?
I think that the company I work for is different because the owner and the leadership team that I work for, they genuinely care about our customers, our quality, our community. Okay. I've watched through the years different equipment get replaced to improve what we do and how we do it. Yeah. I've watched our delivery routes grow. Yeah. We're up in Roanoke. My most exciting thing I'm working on right now is in Auburn. Okay. We're expanding our delivery routes in Auburn, Huntertown. Yeah. We have 2 routes in Elkhart, Goshen area. Mm-hmm. It's just... So that's like an hour,
that's like an hour and a half away from Fort Wayne. And the business is based here.
Well, no, we have a store. It's called Kurt's Cleaners.
Aha, that's right. Yeah. Okay, and that was an acquisition a few years back? Uh-huh. Is that right?
That was before my time.
Okay, all right. So help educate me a little bit. You obviously, individual households, you do that. It sounds like you're working with businesses like Club Soda and others.
And commercial accounts.
Commercial accounts. So what do you do for a commercial account? Is it uniforms? Is it something else?
I subcontract for a lot of different companies.
Okay.
Aramark, we've subcontracted for like UniFirst, Cintas.
Okay.
Like if they have overflow that they can't keep up with, then we're a phone call away. Get over there and establish their needs and what we can do for them, what days they need. Commercial accounts sometimes follow the regular route days.
Okay.
But if they need special details, I'm sorry, I'm lacking the word.
Yeah.
But the accounts are very
if they need
customized.
something different, you'll do it.
100%. Yes.
So let's talk about your current role, because you're a delivery driver for how long? How long do you do that work?
7 years.
7 years. And you still pinch hit every now and then, like today, for example.
I'm hanging on. I'm like a helicopter mom. I don't want to let go.
It's hard if you do something well and you work for the same company, right?
Yeah.
So you're in now a marketing role. And, from conversations you and I have had, you didn't come from strictly a marketing background. So what's it been like learning kind of on the job?
Scary. Very scary, but exciting.
Yeah.
I just don't want to let my supervisors, my bosses down. I don't want to let my customers down.
Sure.
I want to keep this company growing.
Yeah.
I want these routes to keep growing. I lack the knowledge to do so. That's why I've always enjoyed reading your articles.
Well, thank you.
And just following any kind of advice that I get from people that are in the marketing field, because the only thing I know is to make connections with people and let them know what we can do for them and how good we are at doing what we do.
That's a pretty good start, right? I'll tell you that I would rather have someone on my team who's passionate about the brand and who's good at connecting with people, because you can always be taught the tactical stuff. It's not always easy, but it's way easier than someone who has the tactical skill, but who isn't good with people and who doesn't really care, right?
Yeah.
Another way of putting it is that I always say that the people who worry about making a difference probably don't need to worry. It's the ones who don't that should, right? If you wake up every morning and you say, I want to help my customers, I want to help build the brand, you're probably going to do the things that it takes to do that. If you're not worried about it, you're probably not in the right business. So,
it's been 8 years, and I'm definitely not tired of my customers or my customer service yet. I always tell people my phone doesn't have any business hours.
Yeah.
Sometimes that kind of...
Sometimes you wish you hadn't said that. Yeah.
Because I don't answer my phone at 1:30 a.m.
Well, I think that's fair. I think that's fair, yeah. So you've been through some challenges. Not only did you pivot to a completely different career, but you're in a business that changes substantially because of the pandemic. And, you and I talked about this before we hit record too, that as someone who was, like a lot of your customers, went from, I go to an office at least 4, if not 5 days a week, dressing up for work, you go from that to this new reality where not many people are going into the office, not many people are dressing up. And some of that has been normalized where, myself, just as an example, I still come into the office and dress like an adult 2 to 3 days a week, but there's 2 to 3 days a week where it's shorts and a t-shirt if I don't have any meetings, right? So how have you and Peerless kind of pivoted to that new reality?
Well, I think that'd be a better question for like maybe my general manager.
Okay.
But for me, what I've seen is we introduced an easy cycle program, which is a wash, dry, fold.
Yeah.
That is saving so many customers so much time, because even if my customers have a washer and dryer, when the kids are out of school, when they're coming back from vacation, or they have a heavy work week, they will throw a bag of wash, dry, fold, which is our easy cycle program, out.
Yeah.
Same thing. It gets picked up on your route day, delivered back on your route day. I have seen that program take off like crazy.
So let me ask you a couple questions, and this is something I'm only somewhat aware of. So this is just regular laundry,
Yes.
regular laundry.
Yes.
You take the problem away if
Yes.
someone's busy, and you can do this once ever, or you can do it on a recurring basis. Is that
Oh, yeah.
true?
We even have a subscription now
Okay.
that's suited for the families.
Yeah.
If it's a two bag
Yeah.
subscription, 4 bag, 6 bag, depending on your needs, or it's just a 1 bag for a flat rate of $35.
That's amazing.
And you would not believe how much laundry these bags hold.
Yeah.
It is really amazing.
I didn't even think of that.
And
You
then the
could-
girls in the processing plant, the way they fold the laundry, they even match your socks.
Really?
Yeah, they won't do the rolly thing,
Yeah.
but they fold them and it's
Yeah.
all done very well. It's wrapped in plastic and delivered right back to your door.
So this didn't exist prior to COVID. Is that true?
No, it was
Wow.
about 2019,
Yeah.
I believe.
So that's pretty amazing. Yeah.
It wasn't as popular
Yeah.
when it started.
Yeah.
Where now it just seems like there's a lot more people taking advantage of this program because it does save you time.
Well, yeah. And
That's one of the things I always say I sell is time.
yeah.
Not laundry.
Absolutely. And I think that's a really important point. And I'll tell you, I've used the example of ironing my shirts. I occasionally teach like productivity classes, like how do you make the most of the limited time you have? And I use that example. I'm like, hey, not everyone has the ability to hire out stuff. But if you're doing something that you don't like to do and it's keeping you from the stuff that's a higher priority, why do it if you have the discretionary income to hire it out? Whether that's mowing the lawn, whether it's preparing meals, whether it's doing your own laundry. There are some people who like doing it, but those are probably few and far between.
Right.
So that's a great service. And it to me, what I love about it is it's innovative in that the business didn't say, oh no, here's COVID, what are we going to do? Let's put our head in the sand for 18 months. It was like, okay, what's a related service we can provide that solves a problem for customers? I mean, at the end of the day, you say that, you're not trained in marketing. I think you're smarter than a lot of the marketers I know, no offense, other marketers, because you get that at the end of the day, marketing is about solving problems for your customer.
100%, yes.
And then telling that story about how you do it. And if you do that well, that's 80% of the game.
Well, and another thing that I've noticed, and I'd like your opinion on this, is since the pandemic, yes, we were all shut down, locked down for a couple of years.
Yeah.
But life seems to move so much faster for so many people.
Yeah.
I can't really explain why that is, but people that I wouldn't expect to use the Easy Cycle program, I see are scrambling to save time, and they're using the program.
Yeah, and I don't know the answer to that. I suspect part of it is I think at least some of us, the pandemic made us take a long look at, life's short, and you never know what's going to happen. And I hope it's a combination of things. One, people appreciate their time more. And it's like, why am I spending time doing things I hate when there are people out there, when I can actually help someone earn an income and take something off my plate that I don't want to do?
Right, that's a good one.
I think some of it is there's a little bit, especially with younger generations, and I want to get into that in just a second, where they have this, I kind of envy it, this YOLO, you only live once kind of approach, where we'll worry about the details later, but for now I'm going to have fun. I think you can do too much of that, but some of that, a lot of us could learn from that. And I think some of it is honestly that, people, I think, are doing a better job at deciding what their priorities are. Maybe that's optimistic, but I think some of it's true.
I like that.
So what are you doing? One of the problems that a lot of marketers have today is reaching younger generations. So you've got this, generation of people who are 30, 20 years younger than me, who maybe they don't wear nice clothes as much as us older folks. Maybe they don't have jobs that require them to wear, suits and nicer clothes. Some of that is great because it's, a more casual workplace. But are you trying to reach those younger consumers?
Absolutely.
And what are you doing to reach them?
Basically is just showing them the value of saving time with the wash, dry, fold.
Yeah.
Three Rivers, going back to that, it's a perfect example of the wash, dry, fold easy cycle program because the washer and dryers are down in the dungeon.
And it's luck of the draw. There were times when I would, I would haul my laundry basket down to the basement from the 5th floor, and I would get down there and there's none available for me to use, and I got to bring it back up, and then I got to find another time to do it. So I could see that that's a potential gold mine because it's very frustrating.
At that particular building, but at Promenade Apartments, I have a couple customers that are doing easy cycle, and that's basically because they're gone. Their washer and dryers are beautiful in that place. But they don't want to spend 2 to 4 hours doing their laundry.
For sure.
So they just put it out in the hall, and we come along, pick it up. The magic happens.
Well, and I'm sure there's a lot of people, like when I moved into Three Rivers, it was a different stage of life. I mean, it's long in the past, but I was in this unique window where I was single, and I wanted to live life where I could turn off the lights and lock the door and do anything I wanted. And I didn't want to mow the lawn, and I didn't want to rake the leaves, and I didn't want to do all the stuff that come with owning a house. I'm back to being in a house now, and it's great. But in that moment, it was kind of like, what can I stop doing that I've done at that point for 20 years that I don't necessarily enjoy? So I think a lot of people who are in that position are kind of doing the same evaluation. It's like, this is a different lifestyle. What else do you have that can save me some time?
Right. Yeah.
So what are some of the challenges as a fairly newly minted marketer? What are some of the challenges that you're facing, and how are you trying to solve those? In other words, what marketing problems are you kind of turning around in your head saying, not sure what to do with this, but I'm going to give it my best shot?
Well, I guess I have to answer that question honestly. Some people might not like this, but my confidence. Confidence level has been very hard for me because when I was running my delivery routes, I had a job to do. I had a truck to empty. So I would go try to, market to a new account, a new person. But at the end of the day, it was all about that truck and getting those clothes to our existing customers who are very important to me. So now that I don't have my delivery routes and it's just solely up to me to get these routes growing, I'm very honored to have that position. But just getting the confidence to make the contacts and the connections and getting the new business. That's where I'm struggling.
Well, I appreciate your honesty. And I'll tell you, I think it's something that a lot of even seasoned marketers struggle with because so much of it is intangible, right? It's like when you're in sales or when you're in a business like delivery, at the end of the day whether you've done your job, right?
100%.
You can say either that prospect bought or that truck is empty and everybody's happy today. They might not be happy tomorrow, but today they're happy. With marketing, it's kind of like I put things out in the universe. I might get some metrics in terms of what's performing well, but there's sometimes no immediate indication of whether or not it worked. Right. And I think that's especially true. It was always true, but now I think there's even more pressure because you do have some metrics. I mean, I'm old enough to remember a time when it was billboard, radio, TV, and print. And you put stuff out there and you looked at sales and it was like, okay, sales are going up. I think some of that's attributable to what we did, but I'm not sure. Now, because we have the ability to measure, it's almost like we have too much information. Sometimes it's like, okay, well, these numbers went up and the sales went up, so those are correlated. Well, not so fast. It's not like people, and this from the business that Peerless is in. It's not like I'm driving down the road, I see a Peerless billboard, and I all of a sudden go, ooh, I have to start using Easy Cycle. It's a plant the seed thing.
And build a relationship.
Correct. And then maybe a friend tells me about it. Maybe I see another ad. Maybe somebody listens to this podcast and they go, yeah, I should do that, right? But it takes time, and you don't get that immediate gratification.
No, and I just struggling with that
Yeah.
I'm hoping that we can do this in a couple of years, and I'll be like, ask me that question again.
Well, and the other thing too, and this maybe will hopefully give you some encouragement, is things are changing so fast that the technical knowledge is extremely valuable. But even if you knew everything today, in 2 years, you'd have to learn it over.
Right.
One of the things I'm most thankful for in my work is that I'm surrounded by really smart people who help encourage me to stay in my lane and focus on, here are the things I do well. I'm going to do that. And I'm going to trust that our digital marketing team is going to know what to do when a client comes with a problem. I'm going to trust that our social media team knows what to do when that problem, our web team knows what to do, our traditional media team knows what to do, and they do. So, there's a lot of value in focusing on what you do uniquely well. And we don't know each other real well, but to the extent that you and I have gotten to know each other, I think with you, it's relationships and being an ambassador for the brand. And that's a full-time job. If you do that well, you can find people to help you with the other stuff. And if you take time away from those things, maybe your time is better spent on focusing where you're really strong.
The one thing about the leadership at Peerless Cleaners is they're constantly involved with cost groups. They're constantly researching what other dry cleaners are doing, what's next, what's working, what's not. So even though I'm the only marketing manager and this is the first time we've done this, what the position that I'm doing right now, we've had a marketer before, but it was a little bit different than what we're doing now. But I don't feel all alone. I don't feel like it's all my job. I feel like I'm a part of a team and a team that's constantly researching what's going to work. So that's helpful.
It is. But I would also encourage you to hold on to your objectivity a little bit. I know people who are almost too smart about marketing tactics where they forget the 20,000-foot view, right? What's important at the end of the day is that you're solving a problem for customers, that your customers are either busy or think they are. In my case, when we talked on the phone in 2017, they either are busy or think they are. And that's kind of the core of it. But sometimes you can get so focused on the details that you forget that. So I just encourage you to hang on to that, because everything you do should serve that instead of being sort of, window dressing.
One of the things, this is kind of going back, but you had asked me about how we're reaching the younger generation. These new properties that are coming up, I am immediately making contact with the property manager and getting our service added as an amenity. And I love that. I love being a part of a new property. We did it with the Pearl. We've done it with Promenade. And I just made a connection this past week with the Alex. I've been keeping my eye on, I can't remember the name of it, the Lofts next to Club Soda.
Oh, the ones that are under construction right now.
Yes. But haven't been able to have a conversation yet, but that's one of the things that I'm doing, because I know that's a lot of younger people going into those. Except for the Pearl. That's more of a different crowd.
It's
not younger people.
And that's okay. But I really applaud you for doing that. And recognize that that's a strength that not everyone has. There are people who'd be terrified or who would just be complacent about building those relationships. But getting ahead of it and actually building relationships while the properties are still under construction is pretty great. I'll tell you, I'll give you a compliment. So the email that I sent you that sort of reconnected us, I was thinking at the beginning of the year, I'm like, there are businesses out there that I really enjoy being a customer of. I would love to work with them, but even if not, I want them to know they're doing a good job. And I'm not going to name names, but I reached out to you, and there were at least 2 or 3 others. You were the only one that got back to me.
What? I felt horrible.
No, you shouldn't. You should feel the opposite of horrible, because you were like, wow, this is, thanks, and I'd like to learn more. And, you came and we met, and then you brought cookies, which was amazing.
Yeah.
So you've got a quality that not everyone has. And it's just,
that.
I think you care about people. I think you're responsive. And that's enough to build a career on right there. So, yeah.
I'm thankful for that. And that email, the reason I apologized is because, Anthony, it was so hard for me to get used to checking the email on my phone. I check my personal email, but I've had a business email for all these years. Nobody ever uses it.
Yeah.
But a part of my position, my email's now on my business card.
Yep.
So then I joined LinkedIn.
Yep.
And I have a gal in the office who helps me greatly. She's young. She's amazing. Her name's Alexia, and she helps me with all the techie stuff.
Yeah.
So then I saw that email. I didn't respond to you until like 2 weeks later, and I felt
It was fine. You're the only one from that group of people I emailed that even responded. And it wasn't very many, but it stood out. The other thing that I want to give you credit for, and maybe, is it Alexa? Alexia. Maybe this is Alexia's work, but I love your banner photo on LinkedIn. It's you with a Peerless delivery truck.
It's all her.
So it's great. A lot of people don't know what to do with that space on LinkedIn. They either leave it blank, or they have wildflowers or the beach or something that's completely unrelated to what they do. But I hit your profile, and it's a nice impression for Peerless, and it connects you to that brand.
Thank you.
In a way that, I don't have to think about it. So well done, Alexia. Great job. Yeah.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, let me pivot to a few quick hit questions, if you don't mind. So you've had a couple different careers. You've pivoted a couple of times. What is your best advice about building a successful, fulfilling career? If you were talking to maybe one of your coworkers who maybe was, just getting started, and they asked you, what do you think it takes to be successful or fulfilled in your career, what would you say?
You have to be passionate about whatever it is that you do.
Yeah.
I am passionate about people and making people happy, taking care of their needs. When, I had to leave the restaurant business, that was the one thing I clung to with Peerless, is working for a company that shares the same values and feelings that I do, as far as customers, customer service, quality, all of that.
Yeah.
It just seemed to make sense to me. It was an easy fit.
Yeah.
And I'm not tired of it yet.
Yeah. Well, that's great. And that shows. That genuinely shows. And that's really good advice.
I appreciate that.
That's really good advice.
If you don't love what you do, especially when you get to this age, you better figure something else out.
Well, and let's build on that a little bit, because I think that's really good advice. But some people hear that and they say, I have to be happy 100% of the time at work. And some of loving what you do is solving hard problems and going through days that aren't easy, right? I tell people all the time, I've been at Asher now for almost 21 years. And I'm like, I love my job, but not every day is easy. And many days aren't. There are challenges that, for a number of different aspects that we need to work through. And that sometimes makes me even more fulfilled, because no challenges, where's the fulfillment going to come from?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, ultimately, you should really love your job, but that doesn't mean you don't have challenges. It means that you are surrounded by people who can help you solve them.
It does take a village, that's for sure.
Yeah. And you have customers who you feel like it's worth the trouble to try to solve those problems.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I have a lot of relationships that were built on something negative. There's a uniform company that, when I started with the company in 2017, they used to be on our route, but they got upset over a driver issue or whatever. Boy, I took that personally. Yeah. I had nothing in it but my nose, and I made it my mission to get them back. And it took me over a year. And, every time they'd see me coming, I could almost hear their eyes rolling in their head, oh, here comes Stacy again.
Yeah.
But we got them, and we've retained them for about over 6 years now.
So let's digress here for a second. What do you think was the key to getting that client back?
Persistence and trust.
Okay.
Because they knew that they could trust me because I kept coming back wanting their business and being persistent, because once I did get them back on the route, I could just tell that they were side-eyeing me, like just waiting for us to make a mistake.
Yeah. They weren't quite convinced.
Right.
Yeah. And the only way to convince them is to do a good job. And you do it over and over again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That really sparked something, in my thinking. I think when you've been around for a while, you realize that if you're confident in what you do and you're confident in your team, you still hate it when people leave, but you trust that, they may come back.
Right.
Yeah.
And
you can be patient about it instead of being reactive every time it happens.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm confident in knowing that we're going to do everything that we can to not lose a customer and not lose an account if it's a commercial account.
Yeah.
That it's very, very rare that we lose business for like a customer service issue. I mean, people move, people retire, things like that, businesses close.
Yeah.
But in my career, I don't see people leaving us left and right.
Yeah, and I can say, now I've been a Peerless customer for close to 10 years. When you have that long of a relationship as a customer, not everything is always going to go perfectly. I'll say it does 95% of the time, but the couple times I've had issues, I picked up the phone, the problem was solved. And, that's rare in most of the interactions I have. So genuinely, I think it's a great advantage for you that your company kind of stands behind what it does.
And we do.
Yeah.
And it's not just me, it's our plant manager.
Yeah.
Our plant manager is amazing, and she has an assistant plant manager. It's their general manager, the owner. Oh my goodness, the owner of the company. You wouldn't know that he's the owner because he will get right in there.
Yeah.
If something goes down, the boiler goes down, anything.
Yeah.
You can see him working right alongside an employee.
Well, and even because I remember there was a time when I was a customer, but I was picking up downtown. It was right on Main Street.
On Main Street.
Yep. And I remember when I went to delivery, I was like, I'm going to kind of miss stopping in there. They were kind of fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I remember it was like, I definitely am someone who favors convenience, but I was like, that was a good experience. I'm going to miss that. So
our store managers are pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I wish I would have brought that up when you asked me the question of what my obstacles are.
Yeah.
When I contact our store customers to tell them about our free delivery routes, a lot of them don't want to leave our store managers.
And that's okay.
And that's just another great compliment to the company.
For sure. Yeah.
Because they like that relationship. They like that one-on-one customer service, which I always tried to provide the best of that I could as a delivery driver. But, that truck's moving. It's a store on wheels.
For sure.
So,
all right, second quick hit question. We turned that quick hit question into a long answer, and that was my fault. Second quick hit question, and the answer doesn't have to be quick. What is a myth or misconception about the work you do, the business you work for, the industry you're in, something that people don't quite understand maybe as much as they should, that you want to clear up? A myth that you would like to debunk?
This is a fun one.
Okay.
That the delivery is not free.
I was waiting for a catch. Like, what's the catch going to be? There is no catch.
There really is no catch.
Yeah.
It is the same price as in the store.
Yeah.
I run into this all the time. Okay, Stacy, so you can have it delivered. That's great. So how much is it going to cost me if I pick it up at the store?
Yeah.
And I'll tell them.
Yeah.
And then I'll have another conversation with them a day later.
Yeah.
And they do the same thing again.
Yeah.
I just don't know why people don't understand this is a free service.
Yeah.
It's going to cost you the same whether you go to the store or you have us come to you.
And there's even, correct me if I'm wrong, but there are even coupons that you can have emailed to you that if you click on them, they apply even if you do pickup and delivery.
Yes.
It's amazing. So yes. Okay. All right. That is a good myth to debunk because it is absolutely not true.
And I got one more.
All right. Let's hear it.
Limit. There is absolutely no limit to the amount of dry cleaning or laundry that you have to do to take advantage of our free pickup and delivery routes.
I think I have put 2 shirts in a bag and they miraculously go away and they miraculously come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we make the magic happen. Now, doesn't matter how many. People
of the podcast world do not abuse that privilege.
Right.
But just know that if you're having a light week, you can put 1 shirt or 2 shirts in a bag.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. All right. One more. What is something that you use in your work? It could be a tool. It could be a tactic, something you do that helps you get the work done that you think deserves attention. Some people have talked as simple as Google. Some people have talked about AI. Some people have talked about specific digital tools. What's something that helps you get the job done?
I feel like I'm still at rookie status.
Okay.
However, this is going to sound a little bit crazy, but Business Weekly.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Great for Wayne Business Weekly.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
I read your article this morning.
Well, thank you. Thank you. For some reason, they have let me have a column in that publication for 11 years, and I'm thankful to them for that. But really tell me why that's a secret weapon in your arsenal.
Because I like to meet face-to-face with people. I like to stop into their offices, drop off information, try to get to know what they need from us, if there's something there that we can work on. And having something like Business Weekly, I feel like I can get to know the person before I just go crashing into their office like I'm a window or door salesman or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I think it's reflective of the role that media can play in an environment where there's so much choice. I think one thing they do well is they have a very specific area of expertise and a very specific audience. It's like, this is about the business community in Northeast Indiana. We're going to focus on that because, CNN's not doing that. ESPN's not doing that. The Weather Channel's not doing that. They have their lane, but nobody else is covering this in depth. That's what we do. And I really believe that pivot to really specific focus is what keeps media entities alive and what has helped them be successful.
I like LinkedIn, also in Facebook. Mm-hmm. I'm just trying to, work those different avenues. But I just feel like I'm pretty old school.
Yeah.
I like to just look at a face, shake a hand, bring some cookies if it works.
Well, I'll tell you, you have a skill in that. Your ability to build relationships, even with people who might be really hard to get along with the first time you talk to them on the phone, stands out. So congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate the opportunity. It was very much a morale booster, confidence.
Well, good.
Kicker, whatever. I'm very thankful.
Hear that, people? You come on the podcast and you leave with confidence. So
like your sales reborn.
Well, I'm going to end on that note. Thanks to everyone who took the opportunity to listen to this episode of the Asher Marketing Podcast. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then. The Asher Marketing Podcast is a production of Asher Agency, a full-service agency for franchises and co-ops, colleges and universities, financial service companies, healthcare organizations, and government agencies. We'll be back next time with another great guest, and we hope you'll join us then.